DocTalk is brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. I'm Dr. Dan Thomson. Today we're going to talk about castration. We're going to talk about different techniques, different things that you can employ depending on the age and the size of the cattle and the equipment that you have. It's going to be a great show. Stick around.
As dependable as the sunrise, in dairy parlors, open pastures, on ranches and feed yards across America, a place where reputation is more than a name, where the science of healthier animals is a way of life. It's the responsibility that drives who we are and what we do. Every decision, every day. It's your livelihood and our responsibility.
Closed captioning brought to you by Vet Gun with Amel and new AMA Abamectin Vet Caps, the 1-2 punch against hornfly resistance from AgriLabs.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. I'm Dr. Dan Thomson here at Kansas State University. Today we're going to talk about something that's done every day in the beef industry, castration. Now, the reasons why we castrate are, one, to improve the temperament of our animals. Bulls are more aggressive than steers, and it's easier on equipment when we're working at feed yards, and it's easier on people when we're working cattle. The other reason is that we don't have bulls and heifers in the feedlot together. So it decreases the amount of fence crossing and things to that nature when we're trying to feed out cattle. The last reason, and probably one that needs to have more investigation, is the difference in meat tenderness or beef tenderness. Some people think that there's a distinct difference between bull-raised meat versus steer-raised beef, and it's some of those things, culture, behavior, consumer preference, all the above are reasons why we castrate. Now, when should we castrate? I tell the students here, the longer the testicles are attached to the calf, the more attached the calf is to the testicles. We need to castrate the bulls as young as possible. A lot of people will leave these bulls intact to weaning thinking that they're going to get added performance. And research from Arkansas, Florida, Kansas State, and beyond just shows that that isn't true. For bulls to have added performance for being left intact, with testicles intact, they need to be producing testosterone. Bulls don't produce testosterone until they hit 7 to 10 months or 8 to 10 months of age. We wean bulls at 6 to 7 months, or wean calves at 6 to 7 months. So the studies that we've seen at the different universities I mentioned, we do not see an added advantage of bulls versus calves that are castrated during the first week of life on performance or weaning weights. So at this point in time, we don't see added performance, but I can assure you this, that if we leave those animals intact and we send them to the feed yard, when I receive those calves as bulls at the feed yard rather than steers, we'll have 150 to 300% the morbidity and mortality or death loss, and that's the reason why those animals are discounted so heavily when they go into the sale barn. Now, when we walk out there to a baby calf, after it's had colostrum, give it 6 to 12, maybe a day to get colostrum, we go out there to tag baby calves. While we're out there to tag baby calves, it's the easiest time to castrate those little guys. This is an elastrator, okay? And with an elastrator, to use this and castrate calves at that point in time up to a week of age, it is as simple as you have to be able to count to 2, because you have to have both testicles on the downward side of this elastrator. But it's as simple as buying this apparatus with the elastrator band. If this is the scrotum with the two testicles, you're just going to take that elastrator band, make sure that both testicles are on the outside of that band, and then you remove the apparatus, and in about 2 weeks, the scrotum and testicles fall off those calves. It's a very low stress time to castrate these calves and a very easy method to get it done. And then when it comes time for branding or it comes time at weaning, we're already done castrating. So we're going to take a break now. When we come back, we'll move on to the next segment of castrating, what we're going to do with those calves when they hit 3 to 4 months of age right before turnout. You're watching DocTalk, and we'll be back after these messages. Hey folks, Dr. Dan here. Thanks for joining us for our Cattle First Minute as sponsored by Boehringer Ingelheim Vet Medica. And you know, today's Cattle First is talking about how to run a squeeze chute. And a lot of times when we run a squeeze chute, it's raise the tailgate, drop the tailgate on the head of the one behind, let the calf run through and ricochet off the front of the chute. And there are just some things that we can do to decrease injuries in the chute of the cattle. Make sure that we use the sides effectively to catch. If you have a hydraulic chute, that we use the sides. Make sure that we have the hydraulics not set too high, okay? We want it to be at that 650 to 800 PSI on the hydraulics. But being careful that we don't miscatch a calf by its temples and not adjust it, or if you catch one by the hips and you're out there with the tagging gun in one hand and the syringe in the other doing the cha-cha trying to get it vaccinated, it's best to just turn that calf loose so neither you nor the calf get hurt.
When you're in the cattle business, no matter how much it's a business, it still starts with cattle. It's this basic notion that sits at the core of how we approach things at Boehringer Ingelheim. We understand when you put the cattle first, it just naturally leads to doing the right things. If you want to do well in this business, you start by doing right. Take care of the cattle, and they'll take care of you.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
This segment brought to you by the new Hired Hand Portable Cow Sprayer. For more information, visit cowsprayer.com.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. I'm Dr. Dan Thomson. We're here at the squeeze chute and we're here with some equipment. And now we're going to talk about what we're going to do when these calves get a little bit older. We can surgically castrate or we can band these calves. And we're going to either use them in a chute or we're going to rope and drag those calves to a fire, or we might use a calf table, or maybe a little bit of both, depending on the method. But when we look at some of these different methods, there's different approaches to castration. And one approach is to come in from the side, obviously, where I can open up both side gates, and I can make an approach this way. The other approach is I can come back through the palpation cage and actually position myself directly behind the calf. If I'm going to use this approach or the palpation cage approach, you want to make sure you have someone tailing that calf. And when I mean tailing it, it's not just holding the tail out of the way so that it doesn't flop in their face while they're castrating. It is to bring that tail straight up over the back and apply pressure, and it will actually help prevent the calf from kicking. Enough pressure on that area of those sacral nerves and in that sacral region of the tail head will actually cause a slight bit of a paralysis so that those calves won't kick the person that's performing the castration. The other approach that I will make is I will actually drop the bottom of the chute, and I can drop this bottom of the chute, and when I do that, what we'll use is a shepherd's crook. And with the shepherd's crook, we'll come in and we'll actually use that crook, dally off against this, and we'll just bring the back leg straight back so that the animal is standing on the leg opposite me here in the chute. And then I will do a side approach to castration, which is kind of nice about it because if you think about it, I have the one leg stretched back and they can't leave the ground on the other, so getting kicked is preventable in that manner as well. So a couple of different approaches to that. Now, when we castrate the calf, the first thing that we have to do is we have to open the scrotum. And there are different tools that you can use to open the scrotum. This is a Newberry knife, okay? You can purchase these at the Orslins. You can purchase them from the veterinary supply companies. Your veterinarian can probably order you one. And mentioning the veterinarian, one thing you probably ought to do before you decide on a castration technique, talk to your local veterinarian. What type of method does he or she use? How do they like to open the scrotum? How do they like to remove the testicles? What are we going to do if the animal bleeds? Many different situations like that. But this is a Newberry knife. And the two ways that we open up the scrotum, one is with the Newberry knife, where you pull the scrotum down and you come in from the side of the scrotum just like you would. You can practice on an old sock if you want before you go out. And you just clamp it shut like this and you pull down and it'll open up to where both testicles are exposed. The other one is I'll use a scalpel or a knife, and especially on the side approach, I'll use a knife. When we come back from the break, I'll show you a little bit more about what we do with a knife for opening up those scrotums, and one way you can do to prevent from poking the calf with a pointed tip. You're watching DocTalk. Thanks for joining us.
Did you know long-range planning through the checkoff can help keep your business profitable? To successfully pass on cattle operations from one generation to the next, it's important to promote beef and keep farms and ranches profitable. Your beef checkoff helps do that.
We're Jurger's Cattle Company, cow-calf operation primarily with a small replacement heifer operation. We started our operation in 2012, but we expanded on my father-in-law's operation, who started in the 70s, and built off his expertise and his knowledge and have taken and grown it to what it is today. We span about 4 different counties in North and South Carolina, running about 1,000 acres with 350 roughly head of mama cows. My husband and I and my son and my father-in-law operate together. About 2 years ago, we decided to make the switch to become all-natural producers. And what that means is it's a certain standard of quality and life for not only the calves that become part of the food source and the meat itself, but the cows also. Beef checkoff is important for our operation in a twofold way. First is marketing, creating a customer for us. We sell directly to feedlots, but our end game is the consumer. We want to create a product for the consumer that they desire, that they want to go back to the supermarket or steakhouse and they want more beef. Everybody knows the slogan, beef is what's for dinner, but it falls even more than that in that they've raised consumer awareness in quality, which is important to us because we try to focus heavily on our genetics. That's a main component of our operation, and the checkoff has allowed us to do that by promoting a product that's important to the consumer, that it's good quality, it's safe, it's nutritious, and they're gonna want to be return customers.
No matter where, no matter why, the Veterinary Health Center at Kansas State University is committed to providing quality patient care to animals and exceptional customer service to their owners. From routine checkups to emergency and specialty care, our world-renowned specialists and experienced professionals are here to discover, to teach, and to heal.
Let us know.
How can I help?
How can we help?
It's easy to spot the man who uses Synanthic. With lower volume and less waste, Synanthic steps up your deworming routine. Get more deworming with less dewormer at Synanthic.com.
When it comes to stopping horn flies, cattlemen love their Vet Gun. Today they love it even more because Vet Gun now has a 1-2 punch with 2 VetCap insecticides. New AIM-A abamectin can be used in rotation with AIM-L for effective in-season control. Each delivers a unique mode of action to manage hornfly resistance. So start your in-season rotation program with AIM-L and new AIM-A abamectin VetCaps from AgriLabs.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thomson here. We're talking about castration of beef calves. I just showed you the Newberry knife that we can utilize, and we have some pictures of how that can work. The other one is when I come in from the side approach, if you're going to cut the bottom of the scrotum off or use a knife, what I generally do is I will cut the bottom half to the bottom third of the scrotum completely off. Just cut it across the bottom like a little hat. But if I'm making a side approach, one of the things is that these knives can be pretty sharp at the point. So I'll actually take these knives into a grinder and I'll grind and round this tip off so that I can't poke the calf in the leg when I'm reaching through and cutting that bottom of the scrotum. If you want to have an easier way to get to the bottom of that scrotum, I use a pair of pliers or a pair of forceps, grab the bottom of the scrotum and then just twist, and it'll ascend those testicles, and then you just cut across the top. Both testicles will drop out the bottom and we can make our castration techniques at that point in time. So once we have them exposed, we need to remove those testicles, and the testicles, the way that we can remove them is to use an emasculator, or if the calves are small enough, you can just pull them off. And by pulling them off, one of the things that you have to remember is that the cremaster muscle is what is the thick casing around the testicle. We need to break that testicle, that cremaster muscle down. Once we break that cremaster muscle down, then we can start to provide traction on that testicle. Lightweight calves, those 200 pounders, 300 pounders, we can pull those testicles, they'll break off. We want to provide traction as we move forward. The other one is to use this emasculator. And the emasculator has a side that crushes on the top, or sorry, crushes on the top and cuts on the bottom. We always position the emasculator nut to nut. So if I go in there to approach this to a calf, I'm going to put the emasculator around that tunic cord and I'm going to crush with the nut on this emasculator being positioned towards the testicle on the calf. I'm going to hold that for a 4, 5, 6 count until it provides the crushing mechanism and cutting, and then I'll release, and then I'll repeat that on the second testicle. But those are both different methods that we can open up the scrotum, remove the testicles, and move on. An old-fashioned technique that is not used as much anymore on some of the larger testicles and used on some of the smaller testicles is called what we call clamping calves, or the Burdizzo method. And this is actually clamped onto the scrotum without opening up the scrotum, clamped onto the top of the tunic, where we actually are going to move that and break that tunic cord down. And in that method, it's not going to be any problem at all. But again, it's sometimes been associated with not actually having the adequate castration, and we wind up with some animals that are still left intact when we get done. Not used as much, but it might be a technique we'll use in the future. When we come back, we're going to cover the banding technique and wrap up on castration. I hope you've enjoyed the show. We'll be back with DocTalk after these messages.
When it comes to stopping horn flies, cattlemen love their vet gun. Today they love it even more because Vet Gun now has a 1-2 punch with 2 VetCap insecticides. New AIM-A abamectin can be used in rotation with AIM-L for effective in-season control. Each delivers a unique mode of action to manage hornfly resistance. So start your in-season rotation program with AIM-L and new AIM-A abamectin VetCaps from AgriLabs.
Some call it a come-from-behind victory, an unlikely win, a reversal of fortune, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. This is our moment, our victory dance, because we choose confidence. We choose Zuprevo for BRD treatment. Ask your veterinarian to prescribe Zuprevo. Zuprevo is a fast-acting, long-lasting BRD treatment that you can count on to get the job done. Choose confidence. Choose Zuprevo from Merck Animal Health.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thomson. We're talking about castration today, and some people say, well, why don't you just castrate a calf here on TV, Doc? Well, there are some certain different guidelines that we have to abide by, not only with television, but also the university, and sometimes the calves aren't as cooperative either. So today we're going to show you some of the equipment. We have pictures, obviously, that you've seen throughout the show that go with it in video clips, but no live animal procedures. We'll have that little disclaimer at the end. No animals were harmed during the filming of this show. But anyway, only saved. Now, this is a calicrate bander, and this is another technique that you can use on weaned calves, that we use on bigger calves and bigger cattle. And you take this band right here, this high tensile rubber band, and you place it in the apparatus as such. And we'll open this up, and you can slide that metal clamp back to the point where it fits in that apparatus. And then this portion just goes around the scrotum and the testicles. And it has, again, you have to count two testicles, 1, 2. And we get that above. Once that's above, this little gizmo is loaded in here. It's really, really ingenious, invented in Kansas by Mike Calicrate. This little gizmo is loaded in here as such, and then there's a ratchet that you can see that is going to actually bring that tension back, and it tightens that rubber band back until it is around that head of that scrotum, around the top of those testicles. Right here is a little tension monitor that once that tension monitor gets to the right spot, you have enough tension to adequately perform the castration without breaking the band. So that's important to watch. Once that's done, you just simply take this apparatus like such, and you just push it down. And this pushing down crimps the little metal clamp that's inside here. We then just take a tagging knife, and we just cut across, and that will snap this into place on the steer. Okay? I'll show you that little metal clamp real quick if I can get this off. You can see that that is the metal clamp, and that is just then applied. So once you castrate, then you cut that and you turn the calves out. Once we castrate those calves, it'll take 21 to 28 days for the scrotum and testicles to necrose off the body. So we've talked about castrate the calves as early as possible, within the first week of birth. Castrate them at branding, different ways to open the scrotum, different ways to remove those testicles, and then when they get bigger, let's use a bander. Always work with your veterinarian. If you want to know more about what we do here at DocTalk, you can find us on the web at www.doctalktv.com. I'm Dr. Dan Thomson. Thanks for joining us today, and I'll see you down the road.
Closed captioning brought to you by Vet Gun with Amel and new AMA Abamectin Vet Caps, the 1-2 punch against hornfly resistance. From AgriLabs.
For more information about this program or previous programs, go to DocTalkTV.com.
DocTalk was brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.